About to start in the United States Handball Association National Invitational Tournament. It's a doubles tournament. That means 2 men on each side. It means more conflict on the court. It means less room to maneuver. And more importantly, it means the necessity of communication between the participants. The first contest of this sort took place in 1924. It was the first one-wall handball championship in the United States. It was won by Jack Burns. And through the years, many great champions have come to set high goals for this sport, and they've put themselves in the pantheon of great players. First name that comes to mind is Victor Hershkowitz. Victor Hershkowitz is a man of many talents, very successful in 1, 3, and 4 wall, singles and doubles. And we have some wonderful news. The United States representative in handball to the World Jewish Hall of Fame has put their faith in the great athletic prowess of Vic Hershkowitz, and he will be the member of the Jewish Hall of Fame worldwide representing handball. My congratulations to Vic. He's now retired in Florida. He's still playing after 2 knee transplants and grafts, but he's just a wonderful athlete. Along the line of those great competitors followed was Oscar Obert. Oscar Obert with 42 national championships in a 10-year span, 11 Grand Slams, meaning he won the singles and doubles in the same competition in the same week. And the fellow who you just spoke to, Carl Obert, is only one of the 3, Hershkowitz, Oscar Obert, and Carl Obert, who have won the national singles title in 1 wall, 3 wall, and 4 wall, a feat, I'm sure, which will never be done, except, however, for a new entry just this past year, John Bike, who has won the singles and doubles in 3 wall and the singles and doubles in 4 wall. The question now is, can he acclimate his style with no side walls in the 1 wall game to keep the ball on the court in order to make this great accomplishment, following the steps of Oscar, Carl, and Vic Hershkowitz. Along the line in 1 wall, we also have great names like Steve Sandler, also in the Hall of Fame, Al Torres, and now in the modern day, Joe Durso. All these names may not mean anything to you right now, but as the sport of handball becomes more popular, thanks hopefully through my efforts and the work I do with the New York City schools by putting on handball clinics, and the great work of our photographer, Matthew Paris, a well-known writer in his own right, who does magnificent work. He's had interviews with Norman Rostin, the great poet. He's about to do another one with Norman Mailer, the great writer. So folks, if you're listening in and watching, keep your eye on the court behind us. We're going to keep handball alive, and this is one of the many ways we do it. Are the players all warmed up, Carl Obert?
They seem to be ready to start.
Okay, I'll switch around to the side. Thank you, Carl. What's going to happen now is another match in this National Invitational Tournament. The fellow who's warming up with the dark shorts and the white shirt, he's a left-hander called Howie Kadish. The remarkable thing about him is he wasn't touted even to be in this tournament. They had the eliminations last week, and lo and behold, he and his partner, Sostre-Sylvia, came to the fore, knocked out some of the toughest teams, and are now here in this United States Handball Association Invitational Championship. United States Handball Association is an organization formed in 1951 exclusively for the furtherance of the national handball game. They have their home headquarters in Tucson, Arizona, and the 2 guiding lights there are Carl Porter, the president, ably assisted by Vern Roberts Jr., a former champion in his own right, winning singles and doubles with Natty Alvarado. Vern Roberts has now become the executive director of the organization. It's a national organization with inroads into every state in the union. We've even gone so far to hold national and world championships, all in the furtherance of this great game of handball. Keep in mind now, what you're seeing is the 1 wall version. There's also a 3 wall version, which has a front wall, 2 side walls, no back wall. That's also another national competition. The other part of the game is the 4 wall version. Visualize this front wall in front of you, and then put yourself into a room. Now you're dealing not with one wall where the action is with straight shots and angle shots, but more spin shots off various surfaces. You can hit the ball to the ceiling, the side walls, the back wall. Imagine what that means. It means like you're going from pocket pool to billiards, where you have to know all the nuances of this ball that's only 2 inches in diameter and weighs about 2 ounces, traveling at speeds in excess of 90 miles an hour. These fellas make it look so easy. Why? Because they have the hand-eye coordination over many years of practice. You just can't have one good arm in this game as you do in racquetball or tennis or squash. You have to have 2 good arms, and that other arm has to be so great that the player isn't going to hit it to your strength, he's going to hit it to your weakness. So imagine trying to scurry off after the ball with lateral movements, with fast-paced action, your body having to be in tremendous condition in order to move side to side because there are no side walls to help you. And still doing that, reaching a ball that is still traveling 70, 80 miles an hour, catching it in the palm of your hand. Folks, look at the palm of your hand right now and see how small that is compared to the dimensions of this court, which is 20 feet wide and 34 feet from the front wall to the long line, and then another 6 feet out where you have to play every shot. If you can put that into perspective, then you'll see a really tremendous, challenging game which needs ambidexterity, it needs utmost conditioning, and more importantly in the game of doubles, it needs the utmost in communication. You're not thinking for yourself anymore, now you're thinking for 2 people. Very many times a game has been won and lost because there was lack of communication on the game-ending play, where either partner thought it was his partner's turn to hit it, and the ball went by both of them, neither one of them hitting it, and the other team winning the championship based on something so fundamental in the game of doubles. Okay, we're taking a little bit more time than usual because on the indoor facility it's a little more difficult to follow the ball. The lighting is not as good for these players. Again, as I mentioned before, the attire, which is quite proper for this game, is a light-colored uniform. Again, because it's an invitational, no one is saying anything about Howie Kadish there using the dark shorts. Keep in mind, as you get tired and the ball flashing by rapidly in this light near his body, you don't see the ball that well. If I were the back team, I would immediately say, let's change the uniforms, let's do this right. Typically in championships, we want the players to have similar type uniforms on, because that's another factor in doubles play. If both players are wearing the same uniform with the same shirt and the same short, and perhaps even the same logo, that sends a message to their opponents that they're really united. What you're seeing here, because it's more or less a tournament which is invitational, we've let down the barriers a little bit, but you'll see later on how this may actually result in how the game is won or lost. Morris Levitsky on the side is the chap with the red cap. He's got on a red sweatshirt. He's known as the Dean of Referees. He's been in this game for 35 to 40 years. He always gives untireless energy to this game. Sometimes he doesn't always agree with what the players saw, but he, being the referee, makes his decision, and that's the way the game is carried out. On the long line, in back of all the players, we have Mickey Bleckman, who's been the former AAU chairman for many years and a guiding light in this championship since its inception. He doesn't look that old, but he's been very instrumental in these games. He has been carried on now, the tradition, by Gil Hendler, who is the national chairman of One Wall right now. They're taking pictures of the players. There'll immediately be the toss of the coin, which will determine who will get the first serve. There's been a little change in referees. Mickey Bleckman is now coming to the back. And we have Charlie Sheldon, who will be the back referee. He's rather lethargic in appearance, but he gives the utmost in concentration. As a matter of fact, we have a photograph of Charlie Sheldon. He was on the left line calling the line. The action was in the right front court, but the shot showed him in deep concentration on the left line. You get on that. From Carl Obert, who's standing right by here with all his many years of championship experience in all phases of the game, He's going to pop in here from time to time to give his viewpoint. But let me just set up what's happening. Torres-Lonergan in the yellow with the number 16 on his back, dressed in yellow. His partner is Al Torres, who's serving with the headband. As I mentioned before, they're playing Howie Kadish and his partner, Fred-Sylvia, who won the preliminary round last week to get to this very eminent spot in this invitational tournament. You had to qualify last week in order to play against the seeded players. This is known as the feeling out process. Even though Lonergan and Torres have lost the first serve, having won the toss, you get the first free serve. Howie Kadish is now serving. His partner, Freddie Silva, is already alert, ready to get into the action.
You've got a couple of left-handers here, Ruben.
Yes. To be a very successful team, we found out in the past that if you can have a lefty and a righty, that covers the center where most of the shots occur. However, there's one difference. If you get shooters on the court, then that opens up the corners. In this type of game, I found out that they don't usually shoot to the corners. Everybody plays a more or less conservative game, banging it into the middle. The one clear exception is going to be Howie Kadish. He doesn't give a hang about anything. He sees the ball and he rattles it into the corners. That's how he was able to win last week against some top teams to be here today. I'm going to let Carl Obert give his analysis about what it means to be a left-handed partner in a doubles game.
Well, like Rube said, lefty-righty combination is the best. Most teams, when they play with all four hands. The best doubles teams I've seen play always work with their strong hand. We call it 80-20. They play 80% with their strong hand and 20% with their weak hand, forcing the opponent to have to make great shots to get it to their weak hand. You'll watch this game, a lot of them just play with all four hands, and that's a weakness. You accumulate weaknesses, and that's the difference between who the winner and loser is.
Put somebody on the line, that's all.
Torres, a hook shot artist, relies on his serve to get a weak return and go off the wall and roll out killers. His partner looks just to retrieve. That can be a weakness also. In most games, the person controlling the ball offensively usually controls whether it will be a win or loss. So many times retrieving is not the answer. It's a combination of, if you are in a weak position, just put the ball back in play, but you should always be looking to take the offensive role and take charge of the game.
I've already seen they're starting to work on Howie's right hand. They're hitting his legs.
Again, he's what we call a stand-up player. And he doesn't bend with his legs. It's mostly he's bending. When the ball comes to him, he just bends his back.
So that means he doesn't get the weight of his body into it?
He doesn't get his body weight into it, and he's usually takes him an extra second to get in position to shoot.
Yeah,
Score is 1 playing 2.
He seems to take a stance and then swing.
If you notice where they're standing more towards the center of the court. They should be moving more to the outside so they can hit the ball with their strong hand. It should be the lefty and righty working from the outside lines, working towards the center. As of now, neither team is showing any confidence in winning.
Yeah,
The shot that was just missed was because he didn't move his body weight into the ball. It was all on. And eventually he'll tire himself out as the game progresses.
Is there any advantage in having the kind of physical equipment that Al Torres has? He's really very well built. A lot of handball players haven't got that classic look. Is there any advantage?
Again, if you're physically in shape, you put pressure on the opponent that you can last a long time. But again, we have to get back to the idea is the game is not won by being physical. It's a mental process of finding the weakness and working at it. The physical comes in on making gets, retrieves, which will help you, but it's not the finale of winning. The winning is the mental process, finding the openings, finding the weaknesses.
I think Torres was angry at himself for missing that shot.
But again, you have to remember you're allowed to miss, so long as it was the proper shot. If you took the wrong shot and missed, then that's really bad.
I have wondered about that, you know, the lack of impeccability in athletes when you have complete control of the situation, such as a serve or a foul shot in basketball. It suggests there's a kind of diversity or range of action that comes from a common situation that's characteristic of the human species.
Again, people play their own game, and other people make the other person play their game. You have to control the situation.
Who's controlling this situation?
Right now, Torres and his partner are playing what we call three-quarter speed and keeping the ball on the court and letting the other opponent make mistakes.
So basically, they are controlling the game.
They're controlling it as of now. Again, once you find the secret, then you change the game in order to win it much more easily.
We have a situation here where the retriever has hit 2 killers in the opening.
Again, they're just trying to keep the ball in play. And the team up front is trying to make shots that even in their bodies, they're trying to hit harder. Volley checks, you're going to use it the least amount of energy because there's no force needed.
Right.
But they'll waste energy and burn energy trying to volley hard. The opponent usually takes advantage of the hard hitting and uses the other person's force to his advantage. Just like Torres leaned into a fastball.
Right.
It was easier for him to hit it.
Right, he just laid into it like
That was very insightful, Carl. Excellent. I don't mean starting trouble, but insight rather than insight. What we want to do now is get a hang of what the score is all about.
Guys, how about the emotions of the play? Torres seems uncommonly emotional. Any comments on why he's so hyper for this game?
Hyper? I think that's not the right use of the word.
Well, for him.
I've known him for 30 years, and I think I saw him smile once, and I think it was because he might have had something to eat, which didn't agree with him. I've seen him in tournaments where there'll be a controversial call, which should have been in his favor, and because he is so quiet, he wound up on the short end of the straw. Kadish-Sylvia just hit a kill shot there, and Torres-Lonergan claims it hit his shirt on the way in. So what to do now is they should check the ball to see if it's wet.
It seems to me they should make a decisive call.
They're supposed to check the ball. They're not checking the ball, which is fundamental to this call.
Everything fine? Taking this one back here.
Emilio's supposed to be doing the commentary up there. Is he? Oh, Josh is doing it? Okay. Howie Kadish is now serving. Being strong right now. He put the serve to the long line. It's starting to heat up right now. Second man serving, 5-2, Kadish-Sylvia serving. Torres and Lonergan, very sharp, anticipating the serve. But as the match goes on and fatigue sets in, you'll see a dramatic downturn in the degree of concentration and the ability to move after the ball. Keep in mind, this is a very energy-consuming type of game. Kadish-Sylvia serving again. Again, he goes to Torres with his serve. It looked like he had a little right topspin on that. Al being lefty and his right foot being forward, the ball moved right into his body. Sylvia's going to try it again.
That's the way.
Since Howie Kadish stepped on the court before the ball passed him, which is the rule, that will be a foot fault. If he now makes another fault, he'll lose his serve. That's the rule in one wall. If you create the block while you're serving, you start with a fault on the next serve. This is still the type of...
Did you call that a block?
that was just a miscue by Howe. He swung his arm without looking at the ball. This is still the fielding out portion of the game, where both sides are trying to gain dominance in the court while at the same time trying to figure out a weakness of the opponent. As you saw before, Sylvia served to Torres, sensing that he wasn't returning the serve too well. He's still a little, not warmed up, but when he gets warmed up, he starts to focus. There's an age factor here too. He's in his late 40s. Being indoors with not too much oxygen, he may tend to tire rapidly, but he always gives 100% concentration, as we spoke about before. Every move that he makes concentrates on the ball. Sometimes other players will just, their thoughts will wander around as if their partner is playing the shot. Keep in mind, watch all these fellas as best you can. See if everybody's alert. See if everybody's on their toes, ready to anticipate the next shot. See if they're watching the person hitting the ball, trying to anticipate where the ball will wind up. Kadish made a wonderful get of a low shot in front of Torres-Lonergan, but he missed that one. I'm going to put Paul back on here for a few moments.
Guys, I noticed that team just leaves the right-hand corner open when they go to the middle because they're both heading for the middle.
Well, again, the man was pushed out of position. We have to go back one step. And the whole purpose of this game is to control the center of the court by the short line. And all the maneuvers of angling off the court, lifting, is to give you a chance to get to the front court position by the short line. The reason the short line control is so important, with one step, you can reach any ball in the front, to the side, and over your head. If you're in the back court, it takes 3 or 4 steps to get to the ball, giving the other opponent the edge. So you'll notice that everyone is trying to take the other person out by hitting in front of his partner, or hitting in front of himself, or angling to get front court position. And I think that's the most important thing to watch. The score right now is 6-7. There's a timeout. No one has taken over the dominant position of how to win this ball game. They're still feeling themselves out. I still feel Torres has the edge with his experience of keeping the ball on the court and keeping the play going.
I'm amazed with 2 left-handers there were no killers to the right-hand corner.
Well, when you start shooting to the left-hand corner, you can follow up the next shot if the opponent picks it up. So they like working towards where the ball will always come back to their strong hand. Probably at the latter part of the game, they'll start seeing that opening and maybe attempt to do it. But most players, they always go to the opposite corner of where they're playing so they can see the return because they know where it's directed. Many times, if you shoot in front of you and it's a little too high, it gives a setup to the man on that side. As you notice right now, Torres shot off his left leg, being a lefty, picking off the opponent, and that's what made it effective. Just like in basketball, everyone looks to pick off his man in handball. Single picks, hitting off your strong leg when you're shooting, or sometimes double picks, both partners going for the same ball, picking off the other team. This may add only 2 or 3 points to the game, but in a 21-point game, 2 points is 10%, 3 points is 15%, 1/7. And that's a big aid when you play top performers.
That shot, he was moving, or his feet were moving backwards while he killed it.
Well, again, just like in basketball, people practice being off balance and making it. It's to throw off the opponent. And at that instant, he was moving backward, but he knew he had the opponent behind him. He could drop a shot in and pick him off legally. So you can't be moving when you hit a pick. But you can fake moving backwards and then dropping it in front, and that's exactly what he did.
Can I ask you, Paul, is there a general decline in intelligence, I asked, in handball? I mean, the top 20 players, do they go out there with the kind of mental skills that you're talking about?
Not really. Years ago, when people were playing the game, they were more hungry to win. It's not taking away from the physical attributes of the players today, but some of them have never been forced to be better. One of the things that the way we used to train was we'd spot 20 out of 21. So when a real game came about, we didn't care what happened. I heard one player, a very good player, said to me, he said, well, I can hit 7 or 8 out and still take the game. I said, but you didn't improve your game. Try giving them 20 out of 21, where there's no error for mistakes, and then all of a sudden you'll become better.
I've noticed that your two brothers, like the Zoom Oscar, is the same way. Are all for progress, improvement.
But we've always talked of that.
You're optimists.
Well, we believe that any game could be won, and physical alone. One of the biggest obstacles for most players, if they're very fast, it's an obstacle because they think they can win with that alone. Someone who can hit the ball very hard, that's the way of winning. You need a variety of skills to win.
Yeah, they are on the left-hand side.
The game is starting in again. They're working. The lefty always weak hand because he's standing in the middle of the court, giving them the opportunity to shoot there.
Well, shouldn't he be over on the right?
He should be moving on the right, along the line, where all those balls would be coming to his strong hand. Again, you know this Torres and his partner at the front court position.
Yeah.
Now it just changed, but they're all looking to get the front court position. Torres seeing the opening, seeing his man has his partner, his opponent picked, he shot in front of him, and that's why that was an easy score.
He practically gave him that shot on him.
Well, again, not necessarily. Torres still saw the opening and took advantage of the opening. The score right now is 13-7. And again, there's another miss. Now it's 14-7. Torres and his partner have not made many shots.
Yeah,
they've played steady, and they've given the lefty opponent room to hit the ball out and make mistakes.
Right, a chance to execute badly, right?
Many games don't have to be won by shots. Just give the opponent what he likes making mistakes at. And that's what they've been doing. That was a great retreat by Torres. He's the oldest man on the court, but the smartest. He's always looking to use his partner as a pick. He's always looking to take good, clean shots, high percentage shots, what we call. There was another miss. The reason that miss came about was he hit that chest high, and from there we call that 70% against you and 30% for you on the shot range of winning. Because even if he made the shot from that point of view, the ball would have came up.
Right. Chest high, you practically have to hit an overhead, right?
Again, the best way to hit the ball for a kill is off the ankles. Then it becomes a 90-10 in your favor. You hit parallel to the floor. If you miss the shot, the ball is still in play, and if you make it, the ball stays down, giving your opponent no chance of retrieving it.
So that means if you're going to keep the ball low, it should be a lethal shot.
You keep it low, it should be off your ankles, not off your chest. The drive shot is best off the chest. Because if you hit a low ball and trying to drive, the elevation carries it off the court. The score now is 17-7. Torres-Lonergan is serving now. He just threw a natural. His game is mostly bring the ball back. Side out.
It's amazing how Torres, in a situation like that, rarely moves his feet and will try to pick up the ball anyway. And he usually does. In that case,
Well, again, a stationary